Sweat Equity Podcast and streaming show, the #1 comedy comedy podcast in the world. Pragmatic entrepreneurial advice with real raw dog talk. That's my high noon. I'm drinking. I'm scheduling conflict. No air today on the show. I have to apologize to Adam and Jack, our guests, because at the end of this interview, my laptop just shut down. Hey man, listen to us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you're listening to this in your ear holes right now, go on the app, give us a 5-star review, subscribe, share it with that friend, that loved one, that cousin, nephew, son, daughter, granddaughter, grandson that's trying to get their hustle on. Hopefully this episode helps. And it's sponsored by Squarespace, the best drag and drop content management system to build a website, even if you don't know how to program or design. The designs are very girthy already. And if you hit the link in our episode description, you'll get a discount. Holler if you hear me. Let's get this party started. Howdy dotty. Woo!
This is Jack.
Hey guys.
How you doing?
So
there's Adam.
We're an unconventional show already, and I had a makeshift setup in my home office because I was driving to our studio to meet my co-host Eric. He was like, I can't make it, so we had a scheduling conflict, but no worries. I didn't want to reschedule with some esteemed gentlemen as yourself. And so if it looks a little weird on my side, I look a little shiny. I've just been running around in this Florida heat, sweating.
It's all right. We got some of that up here.
That's all right.
I can't have the background of the mountains, the canyon, like Adam has. But we try to do this show real tight, so we're rolling. Why don't you guys, instead of me fumbling through your introduction, why don't y'all introduce yourselves to our audience?
Okay. So my name is Adam Sonnhalter, and I'm a partner with Jack Mencini here in a company called Maximum Value Partners. It's a business coaching firm. We've been doing this for almost 20 years. We've also have a podcast called Dirty Secrets of Small Business. We've been doing that for over 6 years. We have about 320 episodes there. We help to kind of talk about small business stuff and help provide some practical advice to small business owners across the world.
And Jack, anything to add?
Oh, he told us about maximum value and dirty secrets. Yeah, I had 20 years. My first 20 years in business were with big corporations. I broke off of that after about 20 years. I've been messing in the world of small businesses, and we define that as under 25 employees, companies that have under 25 employees. And I bought and sold 16 companies since probably about 30 years since I left the big corporate world. Owned, operated, and started a nonprofit, which turned over to the Mayo Clinic about 4 or 5 years ago. It taught patients how to deal with their doctors. And I love this small business world. It's just Adam and I are kindred spirits at this. We absolutely love helping them, and we do. We help them. We've had hundreds of clients, and if they stay coachable, and we got a little criteria that determines that. If they stayed coachable, we'll be successful with them, and that means sustainable profits. We'll teach them how to do that, and we have a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, what you are is what I want to become. I love the small business atmosphere as well. I won't butter your bread too much. You are a bit long in the tooth.
That's right.
You know,
I got my mask on. Wait, let me take it off.
A different kind of mask, right?
we all wear some kind of mask, but that's a different podcast. I'll say
that's right. That's right.
But you, with that kind of resume, it seems like you don't need to do this. It sounds like you love doing it. You know,
I tried retiring twice, and I'll never do it again. I never try to try it. I will never try to retire again.
Well, I selfishly think about that as well. My dad's retired last couple of years, and I think he's bored. He was an attorney for 35 years, and it was one of those things where, I feel like the people that keep working in something fulfilling in their let's call it advanced age, I feel like they live longer, but they live a more satisfied, kind of twilight years. Is that kind of why you unretired like Tom Brady?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you stop and look at your options, and they aren't desirable. This switch to small businesses years ago, decades ago, was probably the best decision I ever made in my life. And I got a great partner here. He's fast and he's good, and he worked on Wall Street for 10 years, so he learned all the evils there. And we're a good team, and we have a lot of fun with this. And we think of, we would like to help these small business owners and advocate for them. So,
how did you all meet? Craigslist?
I used to golf. Yeah, Craigslist. That's right. I used to golf, and I met him. He used to caddy for me. We have a little.
Long time ago, yeah. During
Really?
my high school, yeah, during my high school and college years, I used to caddy, and so I caddied for Jack quite a bit. And we got reconnected again about 20 years ago when I was moving back from New York to Cleveland, and we kind of got caught up at that point. And that point, he was transitioning out of his latest company that he just sold, and he had started Maximum Value Partners with a couple other guys, and so we just kind of hit it off very, very well, and just had a lot of fun doing this for the last 20 years. And your point's very well taken, Law. He's doing it because he loves doing it, absolutely loves doing it. He's great at it. That's why he keeps doing it.
Yeah, if you're an expert in your field and you are satiated by the work, why not? Why would you stop, right?
Absolutely.
And it sounds like your podcast. I listened to your podcast a couple weeks back. Whenever we first scheduled this, I think this is a reschedule, ours is kind of a poor man's version. You guys actually give a lot of wisdom out there because you have a lot more experience, but in a similar way, I like that y'all are almost in a way giving back, and no one's forcing you to do it. Y'all's podcast is a way to get that wisdom out there. And I try to do the same thing with our show. Eric and I both do it. Here's how we failed, and here's the cheat code to getting out of your own way. Speaking of getting out of your own way, small business owners. So we're kind of cut from a similar cloth. I love helping small businesses. I love being a part of that story, from getting them to successful goals and being just a tiny ingredient in that recipe. What do you find? I have kind of a twofold question. What do people reach out to you for? Like, what do they think they need help from you with on the coaching side? And what do they really need coaching with, but they don't know that when they reach out?
I'd say it's numbers oriented, and Adam can add stuff here too. Obviously, we always add stuff to each other, and not understanding the financial aspect of a business. And we often say, which is true, most small business owners don't know what they don't know. So the challenge of teaching them has to start with something very elementary. And we do that, it's creating a profit plan, not getting into debits and credits with accounting, and keep it understandable for as long as you possibly can. And then you got to quit doing that and get a little serious about this stuff. So we've had a run lately on helping people buy companies or sell their own. And by a run, that's Adam's early expertise before he joined the small business world, an investment banker on Wall Street. So he does that very well. And we've helped just in the last couple of months, we've helped 3 people sell their business. And it's proven very, very lucrative to them. And obviously we get a cut of that. But more importantly, they have newfound freedom and a lot of money in their pockets, and that's fun. I mean, that's a lot of fun. It's all been fun. Every once in a while we get a bozo, but not usually. And,
yeah, the type of person that comes to y'all with intent, I assume, is one that is willing to concede that they need some help. right?
Yeah. They usually get stuck somewhere, in a couple of common places that they get stuck. They may get stuck just kind of bumping along. Maybe they've been in business for 10 or 12 years and they're kind of stuck at the same level for a number of years. And they aren't sure why. They aren't sure how to kind of break through that. Or they often get overwhelmed at times. If they're growing so fast, you aren't sure what to pay attention to. And so a lot of times they'll come to us and say, hey, can you help me get organized? Or something like that. Help me, know what to focus on. Because as an owner, you've got, thousands of things, vying for your attention every day. And if you focus on the wrong things, it can be very tough. So yeah, so folks usually come in and they realize that they don't know what they don't know is, kind of what Jack was saying a little bit long. They start to realize that. They're not sure how to articulate it until they start to kind of meet with us and kind of talk about it. But we learned early on that not everybody is coachable. And so, that's why we kind of create that coachability criteria, because we're a couple of years in and we're having some great success with people, and some folks not so great success. And so we're looking, internally trying to figure out, well, what can we do different? And maybe it's something that we're doing wrong. And what we kind of concluded was that we weren't screening people out well enough, in terms of, hey, not everybody's going to be coachable and take it to it. Sometimes people just want to be, like, hey, I know that's it, and I'm going to do it my way, kind of thing. We call those old steel guys, is what we call those folks.
Yeah, I would run into a similar problem when I had my agency and I was running that full time, and I would find this rhythm of there's a certain percentage that would come to me for help, and then we go, all right, here's the strategy, here's even a business plan. Sometimes I collaborate with, and they just wouldn't want to follow through with it, and I'm like, this is. Why would you come to me? So everybody has that friend that asks for advice, non-business advice, and they just really are going to do whatever they're going to do anyway. I kind of put them in that bucket. Like, I have a buddy that was always asking about like romantic advice. He's dating all the time, wasn't married for a long time. And I had to go like, hey, bud, I think you're just asking to say this out loud, but you're going to do whatever you're going to do. I guess, how do you qualify those kind of people now?
So when we're first talking to somebody, we tell them, so look, we're interviewing you as much as you're interviewing us. And so as we're asking questions, Jack alluded to kind of, we have a 14-point criteria that we kind of go through. It's kind of a pass-fail thing. And some of those 14 points are more heavily weighted. One of the key things, though, is just overall curiosity. If you meet folks who are constantly trying to learn, trying to get better, so that could be, again, just in terms of they're asking questions, they're actually listening to people, they're reading books, or they're listening to podcasts, they're going to conferences, they're constantly trying to kind of get better. So if somebody has that kind of insatiable curiosity, that's usually a good sign of either current or potential success for them. We also look for some past success. So it doesn't necessarily mean in business. It could be just in, maybe they were in athletics, growing up, or they're in the debate club. But if they don't know what success looks like, it's often hard to kind of show it to them, And so we often look for that. So we have a lot of our clients who've had some very successful athletic careers in the past, so again, they know what success looks and smells like from that standpoint.
The dirty secret about entrepreneurship is it's lonely. That's been a theme on this show. We've talked with a lot of people, and that's kind of the thing no one wants to talk about. Or a lot of entrepreneurs are so busy with all these things in the queue they have to do that they don't even take 10 minutes a day to kind of sit back and analyze. The unanalyzed life is not worth living, all that kind of stuff. I find that, my buddy who runs a Scout IT company, an Apple IT company here in Tampa Bay, he was like, he basically dubbed me a business therapist. And I feel like I'm getting the vibe that's how y'all sit down in discovery meeting. Is that on point?
Oh yeah.
Good way to look at it. That's right.
Well, because, especially when I tell them I'm a stand-up comedian as a moonlighting career, that kind of that opens up the conversation a lot faster, I would say, because they feel more comfortable to say whatever, a little bit too much a lot of the time. But I would say, like, even if you're a mom and pop shop and you grew a business and it's doing well, you still don't have that mom, if you're the pop, to talk to, because it's a delegation of duties, right? And so the plight is it's so like within the entrepreneur itself. And I feel like a lot of the coaching aspect in y'all's field has to be more psychology than anything. Like you can definitely teach about P&Ls, and you can teach about profitability. I mean, that's almost as standard as it can come. Sitting with them and maybe get them to understand it's one part, but you gotta be breaking down psychology a lot. Now, it's really interesting. You tap in on curiosity. Why is curiosity the thing that, okay, this is the indicator for us on someone that is coachable? I mean, I know you said it a little bit earlier, but I've never heard anybody qualify anybody by curiosity. I find that interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, as we went back and analyzed not only successes that we'd had, but also with clients of ours, and just in our past life, as we started looking at those qualities that we found to be very a key indicator for somebody to be successful, that curiosity was one of them. And again, the folks that feel like they kind of know it all, or they're there, or they aren't willing to make those changes, again, that just shows, hey, it's very time to kind of get out of business, for those folks. But it's funny you talk about the psychology part of it. One of the things that we tend to specialize in is working with spouses. That's something that I grew up with. My parents started a company when I was like 3 years old, and I thought
that's a different upbringing. Yeah.
Well, I thought it was normal, right? Because here they had a successful company for 40 years and had a successful marriage for over 50 years. Right? I figured that was just kind of normal stuff, and then I got into the real world and realized how unusual my parents were to have success in both of those, where most folks will lose one or the other. And so we had some clients early on where they didn't bridge that gap very well in terms of the home versus work, right? Or you talk about the fact that the partners they don't necessarily talk about all the right things, or they don't have kind of that structure in place to make sure that they don't lose themselves or lose their personal relationship as well. It all of a sudden starts becoming all business. And so a big part of what we help them do is understand, well, here's where to make some dividing lines to make sure, hey, here's business versus here's at home. And here's ways to kind of handle stuff. And as I look back on my parents, that was one of the keys for their success. Was my mom was very good at saying, hey, you know what? It's 6 o'clock. This can wait till tomorrow, right? Let's have family time right now. Now, if there's a true emergency, yeah, we can handle that. But the rest of the time we can kind of hold on to it. And so, as I was growing up, my dad would always keep a little note, like a little note card in his pocket. And I always see him kind of grab it and kind of write something down and kind of stick it back in there. So as a young kid, I'm thinking, the old man's like losing it or something, right? Here he's kind of putting stuff in. And he said, no, he said, what happens is I realize that I get ideas all the time. Yep. And I don't necessarily, if I don't write it down and capture it now, I'm not going to remember it tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. He goes, so the ideas just don't come from 8 to 5. They come all the time. So I learned I have to kind of capture those things and make sure that they're there. So, if your mom says, hey, let's wait to talk about till tomorrow. Okay. I put a note down. We'll talk about, at breakfast tomorrow, as we're getting ready to kind of plan our day. And so they were very good about kind of doing that and be able to kind of separate, who is in charge, one place versus another. So they talked about these things. Well, what we realized is many couples don't talk about these things, or it's like they get into business together because I think that'll help fix us, right? If we're together all the time, it'll make us better. It's kind of like having a baby to kind of fix a bad relationship. It's not a good idea from that standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've seen a lot of those kind of things start to happen, right?
Or getting a puppy to save the marriage. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if your spouses too, a lot of times, like, you're not having discussions you should be having as business partners because you want to get laid tonight, right? So it's also, you just don't talk about it. And it's like, wait a minute, you have to kind of cover these things. Don't worry about sleeping on the couch, right? This is important to make sure you guys have these discussions. So a lot of times we become that facilitator, or when we have partners like that too, they'll often come to us in between and talk one-on-one. Because often they'll talk differently one-on-one, and we'll be that conduit to kind of deliver the message, or be able to kind of, they'll hear it from a different voice from that standpoint. So we have a lot of couples. We also have a lot of partners that we work with over the years, and with us being a partnership too, we can relate to those kind of things as well, because we've been together, like I said, about almost 20 years now. It's been crazy.
Yeah, that's a tough dynamic, because I've had to walk business owners, entrepreneurs through that when they go, oh, my wife is, partner with me on this as well. She handles X, Y, and Z. And I go, okay, now we have to pivot into talking about work-life balance, because your number one, let's call it, I know it's a partner, I know it's an owner too, but let's call it your number one employee too, as well. Like, if they're handling all the things you don't like to handle, which is typically administrative, clerical, accounting, more.
That's right, other stuff. That's right.
Tends to be more of the soft skills stuff. But, are you putting down getting laid in your iCal? Making sure, because it works the other way too. Because if the husband's not getting laid, he's going to be irritable unfortunately. You
Gonna
know,
be a
that,
bad boss.
Yes, you
That's
will,
right.
right.
and like just be a grumpy asshole all the time. And you go, well, how did this happen? And it really, I'm kind of, you know, admire, it sounds like your parents' relationship was really good, Adam, because it's not easy to really be around each other that much. And then you got to manage a house like a business. That's how I look at it. Like, you know, I try to grid out every 15 minutes of my day a to-do list, you know, every morning, just so I'm kind of structured, because I was way out of whack trying to play catch up all the time. And I go, I don't want this life. And I want to be present when I have my kids. I'm a single dad with 2 kids. And so it's kind of like, I got them 50% of the week. I want to be present. So I have to cut off work when I've got them, because they're just all over me. But like, in the same respect, you know, how you grew up in Cleveland and your parents had an advertising agency. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
So you didn't know any different. I find that, so like my family's the opposite. I grew up in a lot of non-entrepreneurial, like a lot of like, get your gold watch when you retire, you know, stay with one company as long as you can, if you can, you know, very risk averse, I would say. And not that that's a bad thing either. It's just not my personality. And I've always been kind of entrepreneurial. What was that household like?
Well, you know, it was just part of the dinner time discussions. You know, if something was kind of going on, you know, if there's a big deal happening or things are happening in the company, or if there was some cutbacks happening, or if they're looking to buy another company again, we were just kind of aware of it, you know, and just not realizing until I look back and I go, wow, you know, this was kind of interesting discussions. Because again, I thought everybody kind of had the same talks, but I had some friends who had parents who had jobs, and they didn't talk about business at all. Or if they did, it was all bad stuff. Hey, the man's keep me down doing, like, it was all this victim stuff. And I think, wait a minute, no, you know, you can control your destiny, you know. And so, as I look back at all the jobs I had growing up, you know, whether it be caddying or, you know, setting up bingo for different stuff, or, you know, I was always attracted to those positions where there's upside, there was more of the entrepreneurial bent to it. And even when I went to Wall Street, the place I chose was Bear Stearns, because it was more of an entrepreneurial place, and everybody I met there was different. So I said, hey, it's a chance to kind of come into some place and kind of just be yourself, versus you fit, you know, some sort of mold. And so I guess just kind of growing up, you know, it kind of gave me that quiet confidence to kind of know. And again, a lot of folks I met caddying too were entrepreneurs, you know, guys like Jack, who reinforced a lot of those things and talked about, and they were always the happiest guys. You know, the folks
Right.
they're kind of doing their own things. Look, if you want to control your own destiny, you got to work for yourself. If you work for somebody else, they're going to move you around. If, you know, if you're successful, they're going to move you here and do that. It's going to be very, very difficult, and you aren't going to control yourself. And I saw a lot of those folks when I was in New York, you know, who were by outside means, you know, you judge them being successful. But to me, they're going on vacation, taking their nannies with them. I'm going, well, wait a minute, you know, you had kids. Why? Just so you can reproduce, because you're so wonderful. I mean, again, you know, I want to have a family and kind of see them, you know.
I'm cool with the nanny thing, because I've just been complaining about going on vacation with your kids it's harder than normal life. It's not cool. There's no chill. It's like, please don't die in the water. Please don't light a firework without me. Please, you know, like, please don't die in this other area environment. Jack, what was your environment growing up? Presumably your parents met in the Wild West.
My dad was a steel worker. He worked blue collar all the way. My mother, homemaker, worked a department store, you know, 20, 30 hours a week kind of thing. So it was a typical Cleveland Rust Belt kind of upbringing. Didn't know any better. I thought we were rich, but we weren't. So that's a good grounding. I never knew we were poor. Not really poor, but, you know, at the lower workaholic kind of situation where, you know, he was a factory worker. So that was my experience.
I hope
motivated. He was a good amateur athlete. He was real good. And so I played football and basketball. You know, I played a lot of sports as a young guy, and lucked out. You know, I had a nice career in a public traded company, vice president, and he wanted me to move on to Canada as president of our Canadian operation. And I said no, didn't want to do it. No victimhood or anything. I just didn't want to do it. I knew I was pretty good and I could land on my feet no matter where I was. Plus, I was a lot younger than I am now. and it worked out well. No complaints.
How do you tune? Do you do anything to tune yourself to make that decision? Meaning, like, a lot of people in that position would just take it because it's the next rung on the ladder, right?
That's right.
I feel like, and we talk about it on our show, it's for entrepreneurs or people with the side hustle, but it's also all the same rules apply if you're trying to move up a corporate ladder as well. You have to kind of be entrepreneurial in that way, in a way of like, you know, you're your own boss. You need to excel more than, you know, the 100% kind of thing to get where you want to be. How did you know, like, this wasn't the right move for me? What was it in your bones that you felt?
You know, it's funny. People ask me, how could you leave a big corporate spot as a VP with all that good stuff ahead of you? Well, it wasn't good stuff. It wasn't horror or anything, but it wasn't right for me. You know, people who do what I did will give a story. They'll give a reason why they did that, and that's bullshit. They don't know why. I didn't know why, but I knew I was okay. You know, financially, I had stocked away enough, and being a VP in a public company, a lot of perks, so I was okay with that. And so was my wife, and so I took some time off. It was great. You know, I was 39 years old, and it was just a good time to do something like that. So I got two sons. We, you know, did stuff together, and I got, you know, talked to people I hadn't talked to in years, and just put my feet up and just relax for a while. It was great. So
Yeah.
And when I got into the small business stuff, I did it again when I was buying companies, and when I sold one, you know, I sold another and bought a couple more and did some consulting and just kicked around a lot of things. And I said, hey, I like these guys. They're blue collar guys for the most part. And I know that world. I know it well, and I'm comfortable with it. So it was just done without, I can give a reason, but I wasn't thinking like that when I left. And I left totally on my own terms.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't set themselves to be up to be able to do that, right? That's part of being.
Well, no, I'll disagree with you, because they can, but they
They
never
can.
take that
No,
step.
they can. A lot of people don't, is what I'm saying. You know.
Yeah, they got this sense of false security that working for a big company or taking a big position is going to be worth it. Oh, it's bullshit. But I didn't know that because I never did it. And I never knew anybody who did it. And, you know, but I liked entrepreneurs and I like blue collar guys. So I don't like the suits and the nonsense that goes with all that. And, you know, the office politics. You got to be assertive and you got to be aggressive. You really do. With, you know, you got to hone the edge a little bit, but for the most part, that's how you make it in big corporations. It's cutthroat. It's not fun. You know, in that sense, it's not fun. And I didn't know what fun is.
It's not satisfying at the end of the day, right?
That's for sure. That's for sure.
I
People
don't talk
about that, but they don't live it.
I don't talk about being happy. I talk about being satisfied. I think happy is a goal that's unachievable almost in one way.
I agree with you.
I feel like being content, satisfied, satiated. What are the things that get you up in the morning? I think myself, like y'all, I love being able to be part of that engine that helps, you know, a small business owner that needs help, you know, that little jigsaw piece to help them kind of get on their way. And then it's the best when I see clients that I had sell their business, you know, sometimes to big conglomerates. That's fine. That's what they wanted to do. That was their end goal. There's nothing prouder. There's no better dinner to go have with that client once they're done, you know, with that sale, and kick your heels up and just go, I don't know. There's some communal kind of acts of service with it. It feels like
we get teared up when we have a success. You know, yeah.
Oh, I'll start crying if I keep talking about it right now. But
no, we do. It hits you like that. You know, some people especially. It just you know, you gotta
changing their lives, right?
Yeah,
you're changing their lives and their employees' lives in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. One of the things that, I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs over the years. Even when I was in New York, a lot of the folks we advised were entrepreneurs. And the one guy said something that really stuck with me. He said, look, is that if you're going to work every day and it feels like work, it's a sign you have to do something different. It's probably something different. And I was coming into work at that point and it felt like work. And I started looking ahead at guys who were 10, 20 years older than me to kind of look at the path ahead. And I was like, I don't want to be on that path. And it takes a little bit of courage to step off. There's a famous quote in the movie Wall Street where the old guy's talking to Charlie Sheen about looking out, staring into the abyss, right? So if you picture somebody standing on this ledge, taking that step off, going to do your own thing. The folks in corporate America are not encouraging you that. They're trying to damage your psyche. Saying, well, you need us, right? You don't know how good you are until you take that step off. And so the key is to take that step. And usually what you do is if you're good, you find out just how good you are, and you realize that you don't have all the answers, but you can figure stuff out. You can come back to the whole curiosity thing. You'll figure out the answers. You'll tap into people. You'll find a way to not go back to that place. And it's rare that folks leave the corporate world and go back. It happens once in a while, but it's very usually once they go, why did I wait so long? So I did it when I was 30 years old. Because I said, why wait till I'm 60 to do what I want to do? I want to do it now. So let's go do it now. And so that's why I started looking around for people and decide what I was looking to do. That's when Jack and I got reconnected. It was good timing. I didn't know we were going to start a coaching company, but we kind of evolved into that. That's part of just kind of going and finding people who you like doing stuff with, and you start to discover. But the freedom there is fantastic. The shackles of corporate America and the bureaucracy and how long it takes to get stuff done. And it's like, give me a break. It's like, let's have an idea today. Let's go try it out. Let's see how it goes, and let's learn from that, but it's so much more fun to be able to kind of try those kind of things, and it's much more fulfilling, and we have a lot of fun. So yeah, it's been 20 years of hard work here, but we enjoy it. So it's not work; it's very fulfilling.
Yeah, and in the pandemic, they talked about. I read an article, I think it was Wall Street Journal, was talking about how in the pandemic, it really showed how much mayors in every city really had to react and really step up their game and be agile. I feel like the small business lifestyle is about being agile. It is about, okay, this isn't working. We tried it. Let's go this way. Or if you're at Bear Stearns, when were you at Bear Stearns?
In the mid 90s, so 95 to 97. So it was 10 years before it collapsed.
Okay, but after the crash of 87, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. And so, yeah, you were there in a crazy time, Wolf of Wall Street era,
Yep.
I guess.
Oh yeah.
Throwing midgets on a dartboard.
Pretty close.
But I mean, it was one of those things where I just watched that movie the other day, and I was like, that environment isn't good for me. It's nice to walk through the hallway, and if you saw that, it'd be cool, or see it in a movie, but that doesn't work for me. I want to be agile with your life as well. So we try to keep these episodes about 33 minutes. So I got 2 questions, and we'll definitely have y'all back on because we barely just peeled the onion at all. And so one question I have a disdain for business coaches. And you guys are coaches, I know that. So I'm setting this up to put foot in mouth in a way, but there's a lot of in the same regard, there's a lot of motivational speakers that I don't have a trust for. It's good, it's temporary. How do you guys separate yourselves as a real legitimate business coach? Because I can tell just by talking to you this short amount of time, you're legitimate. Whereas I get a bad evangelical preacher feeling out of a lot of business coaches in quotes.
We've gone from 20 years ago when we first started doing this, people were saying, what the heck's a business coach? To about 5-8 years into, they're like, well, tell me why you're different than these other 6 people that I met here in the last month, right? And so usually what we saw, and the reason we got into this business, we saw people that were coaches that had no idea about business. And so usually we find you have folks that are life coaches or career coaches. They say, well, coaching's coaching. And it's like, okay, that's not the case when it comes to business. Or they've only got one area of expertise. Maybe they're a salesperson, or maybe they're more of a marketer, maybe they're more of a numbers person, but they don't bring that kind of complete picture from that standpoint. And so, with Jack and I, what we focus on is trying to help to create those owners who become CEOs, to be able to run the business. We joke, we said, look, the goal is you get the company to the point where Jack and I can run it. even though we have no knowledge at all about your product or service, but you get the company to that level, then we can be able to kind of run it from that standpoint. So we've been able to bottle up our combined almost 100 years of experience here to kind of put it down and say, here's how we simply be able to apply it to the owners of small companies. And having two of us together, we coach all our clients together. And we started doing that very early on and realized it's very helpful to have different eyes and ears on stuff to make sure that we don't miss stuff. And we're very straightforward with how we coach our clients. It's a flat monthly fee. We're available 24/7. We're there as partners for them. We aren't nickel and diming with stuff. So a lot of things that people do that really annoy people, we don't do that. That's not how we are. We're there to be able to deliver value. And it's always month to month. We aren't making people sign 6-month, 1-year contracts. Most of our clients stay with us for years. Our longest term clients have been over 10 years with us. And as long as they want to keep getting better and growing, we know what it looks like to be the startup phase. We know what it looks like to be a multi-billion-dollar company and everything in between, right? So no matter where you're at or where you want to go, we can help you get there if you stay coachable and if you kind of follow our guidance. If you don't, we can always walk away. Hey, it's been a great couple of years, but now we're going to kind of part ways and see how things kind of go. So we're always very focused on that part of it to make sure that we're helping them, and it's a focus on helping them get better, not on us. It's always on them.
Well, all those principles you just laid down, maybe I'll be on your careers page on your website soon, looking for something. The last question we asked, and it's the question we ask everybody the first time on the podcast, what advice would you give your 13-year-old self? Who wants to go first?
Me. Today with what I know, I have a grandson, and I've been trying to subtly drive entrepreneurism into him, and he's got it. He's graduated college about a year ago, and he's a guy who gets up front, takes charge, and he's doing things that I wished I would have done. I don't have any regrets really, but if I were to answer this question, it's to go back and become entrepreneurish at an earlier age. Adam had an advantage of that, but we often miss the advantage. We often miss those opportunities. I would start sooner, but
what do you think?
No complaints. Well, just the environment. If you don't know what you don't know, how do you start it? And that's why it's impossible to really grasp it quickly unless there's a mentor kind of driving it into you. Not driving it in a negative way, but just subtle hints and encouragement and set things up for him unbeknownst to him and that kind of thing. So
yeah, you grew up in an era where entrepreneurship wasn't as prevalent, especially in the region, right? It was a lot more like I was saying, like you go to work, you get to go watch, you retire. It's that kind of lunch pail kind of right?
Yeah, I had paper routes and things like that. I mean, go back, hey, when I was a kid, and, we walked, 10 miles in the snow, that kind of thing. It's
uphill both ways. Yeah, we know.
I'd like the awareness of a good mentor, someone who's working with you and encourages you, and all of a sudden the light can go on. I think that would have been. So I wouldn't, I'd like to sidestep big corporations. I'm sure it gave me good training. It did. I mean, I got great insight and learned business and learn organizations pretty well. So I don't know. It's a tough question to ask, really.
I know. It's a brilliant question. I feel like a genius.
Yes, it is.
Well, I have a 19-year-old, a 16-year-old. So I keep telling them the same kind of things, that here's the goal of school, is to help you find what you like and what you're good at. If you can figure those things out, you can always find a way to make money at it. And I also say now school doesn't have everything in it. School only has a very limited number of things in it. And so this whole idea of having to go to college, it's a bunch of BS, right? I mean, college is right for certain people. Not everybody needs to go to college. Lots of ways to kind of figure yourself out. So I've been trying to encourage my kids from a very young age. So my daughter, who's 16, is very good at art and drawing and painting. So I've been encouraging her to try to monetize that. Versus just go get a job somewhere and be miserable. So look around, look at all these signs around her. Somebody creates these signs. Imagine you can create a sign like that and get paid for it. And once you see them start to earn some money and how they kind of light up, that's what you get, that entrepreneurial spirit, kind of making your money and seeing that you can adjust the value. You don't have to go work for a certain dollar per hour. You can go, kind of name your price a little bit. So the idea of entrepreneurship, even today, still isn't being taught in school as much. Again, they're being trained for jobs that, I don't know if a lot don't exist these days. That's why there's a big gap in terms of, jobs available versus, lack of people who are qualified for them. But, to me, to encourage the kids to try to find what you like, what you're good at, you can always find a way to make money, especially today. There's a lot more ways to be able to make money today than there ever were before. And so to be able to kind of focus on that versus just trying to, get your degree and hopefully get a job somewhere and just be miserable for the next 40 years. We're trying to keep as many folks away from that as we can.
Yeah, and look, you could. There's a lot to chew off of what you just said, and I definitely want to have you guys on selfishly just to ask you both in a longer form interview how I can foster my kids' entrepreneurial kind of vibe if I can. But it's like you're saying with your daughter, get that Etsy store going, get your Pinterest going. That's where the moms are. Moms buy a lot of this stuff. And it's not icky. If you need me to come in and do like a halftime speech to get her riled up, because I get a lot of people that think I'm a creative in the professional world because of the stand-up, and it's vice versa the other way. When I'm in stand-up world, they think I'm like a button-up professional, and I'm like, these worlds aren't separate. They're both entrepreneurial, and just because you're creative doesn't mean you can't have a business.
Oop.
Uh-oh, we lost him. Well, let's wait to see if he comes back. It's still recording, Jack.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. So we'll give him a minute to come back. If not, I guess we'll hang it up and then he'll come back at us. There's still only two of us here, it looks like. Well, how about if I end the meeting and then he'll reach back out to us? Maybe we kind of finished up to where we wanted to get to. We already went over the 33 minutes he was looking to get to. So
Yeah.
all right, let me hit end meeting for all. I'll see you tomorrow.
You don't have his text?
No.
Yeah. No.
Just an email. But I mean, he has the link to get in here, right? Good thing he's recording in the cloud. It's still recording in the cloud. I can see it. Do you see the cloud on your screen?
No, where should I see it?
Well, I see it in the top left of my screen, but well, let's wait to hear from him. Again, this is what he was kind of finalizing that this episode, he wants to kind of reach back out. So we'll wait for Law to reach back out to us. We'll get another time schedule, it sounds like.
Good.
All right. That was fun.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of fun.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.